This is The Art of Startup War, and I am your sensei, Brian McMahon. Now, in Season 1 and 2, I got inside the minds of startup investors. In Season 3, I brought in entrepreneurs to share their startup journey. Here, in Season 4, we combine both, so you can hear investors critique the investment value proposition of individual companies. You're going to hear how investors make decisions to invest in startups, what makes a great entrepreneur, and how billion-dollar companies are built. So tune in every Tuesday, 10 a.m. on all the major platforms. You can empower your tribe by sharing the podcast, and remember to subscribe, rate, review, and leave us a comment. Good morning, it's Brian. It is The Art of Startup War. I have an amazing entrepreneur here with you this morning. She is incredible. And when I say incredible, I'm talking about every single level. If you are an investor, you are hearing it right now. Gynisus, 2 years' time, is going to be either on one of the exchanges or incredibly well known and only held back because the founder wants to. You are going to hear about it, entrepreneurs. This is going to be one of the top entrepreneurs, not just female entrepreneurs, but entrepreneurs mentioned anywhere in 2 to 3 years' time because of bringing tremendous change to the world that also generates huge amount of money. And if you are any kind of observer and you are wondering where the Facebooks, the Snapchats, the Providences, the GlaxoSmithKlines, the great companies, where they begin, this is it. Welcome, Hila from Gynisus.
Thank you, Brian.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How accurate was that? It was pretty accurate, right?
It was pretty accurate, definitely.
Yeah. And I want to tell a little story about this company. When we have run an accelerator here at Expert Dojo for quite some time locally, and I came across I had an epiphany a little while back, and I suddenly realized there are unbelievable companies around the world, and in certain countries have got more of those companies than other countries, right? So Israel is that amazing place where so many great entrepreneurs come from. So when I decided, wow, we're going to go looking around the world to find great companies, I went to Israel and I was introduced to Hila at Gynisus. And as an investor, most people will know that a lot of the time we go through a lot of due diligence. We will look at the companies, we'll look at the stuff, we'll try and find out reasons why it's not going to work, and we look at every possible reason how we're going to lose our money before we go into it. Within 30 seconds of meeting Hila, I had decided 100% that we were going ahead, and I spent the rest of the time speaking to the other stakeholders and the people that I knew to persuade them that I wasn't absolutely crazy, because it's the first time that this has ever happened to me. Now, for me, I saw the game-changing innovations that Hila was bringing in, and I don't want to ruin the show by saying it, but am I the only person who has that reaction to you, or do you find it happens to you a lot?
So, because of what we are doing is actually game changer, so I hear these comments a lot. So it's very promising for me, and I'm happy and delighted to lead this company to a tremendous success, because our success is the world's success, and it's 100% of the humanity. So it's so exciting, and thank you so much for having me, by the way.
Yeah, and I know, look, it's women's health, but actually it's the part of women's health that means it's everybody's health. Because if you don't fix this particular portion, there is no everyone, right? So tell everybody what it is.
So we established Gynisus in 2015 based on a personal story of recurrent miscarriages and preterm births. And you know what, Brian? It's actually 15% of the births every year in the United States and worldwide. And we are talking about more than 500,000 pregnancies every year that ends in preterm. Actually, big numbers. And this problem, it's not just that only, but my colleague that suffered from recurrent miscarriages and preterm births, her physicians reported no risk factors. And when they reported no risk factors, I mean that in 50% of the cases, it's the same exactly story.
But why is that? Because the doctors don't know?
So the doctors do know what they are doing. But the problem is all these unnecessary medical tests and all these clinical implications, I mean, misdiagnoses and all the complications that are leading to these outcomes, bad outcomes.
Because the doctors don't have the data, right? They see the patient walks in, somebody looks like they're pretty skinny, they look pretty healthy, and the doctor says, "You look okay." And because you look okay, then either number one, we assume you don't have any preconditions because we don't really see anything that would cause it, or number two, because we're really worried about maybe being sued because we went for number one, we're going to make you do every test in the world, which is almost as risky as number one. I mean, the doctors are kind of in an impossible position, right?
That is definitely the true. So we developed an innovative and groundbreaking SPI, which is AI platform, stands for Safe Pregnancy AI, to stop exactly this clinically and financially devastating chain reaction that starts with these unnecessary medical tests and ends with maternal and neonatal complications. So, through SPY, we provide insights, precise information, and detection and predictions throughout the full continuum of a woman's reproductive health cycle.
Wow.
And we start at the pregnancy planning phase. We don't need to wait until the woman will be pregnant. And then we continue through the perinatal phase, intrapartum and postpartum care.
Can I
But
stick to the first part first? Like just to throw some things back at you, because when I think, and especially when we went through the birth of our child, I think of having a child and believing you're going to have a child is like a horror movie, because you know there's a bad guy out there somewhere in the house, right? And everybody's saying, "Don't go upstairs, don't go upstairs, don't check it." But you have to go upstairs, right? Because the movie says you got to go upstairs, and as you go upstairs, it gets scarier and scarier. So when somebody gets pregnant, or they believe they're going to get pregnant, they are terrified in that first 18 weeks, right? The first 3 or 4 months. They don't tell anyone because they know that stuff which they believe is outside their control can potentially happen. And if they tell people, then those things might happen. And the awful thing is not that it will happen, because things happen to us in life, right? The awful thing is you don't know. And you sit in this terrible time period of not being sure. So what I loved, where you got me at the start, where you said, it's not about diagnosis, right? Diagnosis is not terribly hard. It's just too late. It's just trying to say that the car wheel is falling off the car as you're driving 70 miles an hour down the freeway. The beauty here is what you do, which is predictive. And predictive even before you get into the pregnancy cycle by looking at multiple layers of data that you can get access to that give a probability of certain preconditions being in place. So that's what, for me, is incredible.
so again, it's totally right. I mean, when we get inside a pregnancy, and let's say that we are talking about preeclampsia and gestational diabetes and other complications, maternal complications inside a pregnancy, when someone is already diagnosed with some of these complications, it means that the train has already left the station. And what we are doing is to open this new window that you mentioned before the pregnancy, at the pregnancy planning phase. So this window, it's so important one, because first, knowledge is power. Now you can do something to get inside the pregnancy. It's like black box these days. You don't know how you're going to get into the pregnancy,
Yeah.
and you don't know, you and your physicians, by the way, don't know what will happen during the pregnancy. And it's a huge problem. It's not just clinical implications, but all these clinical implications are leading to financial implications for everyone. So now we are in a lose-lose situation. And what we offer is to open this new window to have this intervention very early before the pregnancy, to have a better baseline to the pregnancy and to prevent these incidents, to prevent these complications. Well, if we will focus only the unnecessary medical tests in the United States, we are talking about over than $200 billion in a year. And let's focus only about preterm births. So it's $26 billion in a year. It's huge numbers, and it starts from the parents, the young parents that just starting their lives in bankruptcy. I just met someone last week at TechCrunch event, and she approached me with her story. She looks totally fine, healthy, and her physicians reported no risk factors. It means you are totally okay, but still, she had 2 pregnancies that ended in preterm. And guess what? After 1 week, she returned home. She got a bill from the hospital, and the bill was for $500,000. Think
Wow.
about it. It's like bankruptcy for this couple, and it's not only for them, but the employer, but the whole system. I mean, health plans, the hospital that will need to handle with this amount of money, because there are not many young couple out there that can handle with such big amount of money.
It's money's huge. This you have one of the few solutions or products where I'm totally torn. Which is the bigger cost? Is the financial cost, which is in the billions, if not trillions, or is it the emotional cost of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of folks who lose kids because they didn't have the knowledge to be able to actually do the right thing? Because both are equally awful, because you could argue, even forget about the actual physical cost that comes back from the hospital. Once something that like that happens, especially if it's a very late preterm, do people really recover from that well? I'm not sure. I mean, I know people who have lost their children very late, and they haven't been the same for a long time afterwards, and that affects their work, their life, their emotions, their couples, their relationships, the entire society. This is why I say to you, like, you're solving a women's health problem, but you're actually solving a human health problem,
That
which
is
is how
right.
do we all become better humans in the future, living better lives?
I mean, that is so right. It's a life changer. All these complications are life changing, because from this moment of the diagnosis, your life will never be the same,
Yeah.
because it affects not only the mother but her baby. And in a lot of the cases, we find that the babies that become child and then become adult, they still having problems from their pregnancy, their mom pregnancy.
Yeah.
So it touches everywhere actually in our life. It's
Yeah.
our community, it's our family life, it's everywhere.
It's huge.
And if you will think about it, Brian, we talk about 1 out of 8 just in the United States, but let's talk about gestational diabetes. In the United States, it's almost 1 out of 5. And these gestational diabetes diagnoses inside a pregnancy will affect this newborn. So again, it's a life changer. And if we can change it before and have better baseline, then have better outcomes, so great for us.
And do we have an idea as to what we believe we can change the outcomes to?
So
Because I know that you do, but I also know that it's something that we have to be careful going through. But it's such a huge difference that you can make in the outcomes that I think it's absolutely incredible. You know what I do want to share, actually, which I think is very nice, is you were responsible for my saddest moment and then my happiest moment of this year so far. My saddest moment was when I said, Hila, I got $100,000, which I desperately want to give to you because I love your company and I love you and I want you to take it. And you said, well, that's very nice of you, but I don't really need your money because we got loads of money before. And I said, yeah, okay, fine. No, you don't need my money, but but will you take it? Because I have $100,000 and I really like your company and we want to invest and I want to get equity. And he says, no, 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 I don't need your money. And I said, okay, well, can I give you less? And he says, no, 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 I don't need less, but I do like you and I like what you guys can do. So maybe we can partner. And I said, well, if we partner, you have to take my money. And you're the only person ever that I had to force to take the small amount of money that you would take from us, which resulted in my happiest moment, where I thought, we are going to be an equity part of when you become one of the most impactful companies in the world, which is huge. So it's really nice.
Totally.
But it was a battle. And it was a bizarre battle because it's supposed to be the other way around. And it wasn't the other way around. And then everyone we've spoken to since, every hospital we've spoken to, every venture capital we've spoken to, every HMO we've spoken to, everyone, they've all reacted the same way as me.
We found, actually, I believe that we found the formula that our spy platform is in the middle of everyone. I mean, we we believe in a win-win situation, and the first decision that I took in this company is that we need to move everyone from this lose situation
Yeah.
that is coming from this fear mindset of starting off the physicians that are frightening to be sued, and then moving to women that actually they enter to black box, and then it ended with the pairs that lose a lot of money every year from these incidents. So I determined to move from this lose-lose situation to a win-win situation. And by using this mindset, I enforced our employees and all around to find the ideal solution for everyone. So if you look on our solution, what we provide to pairs is capability to predict the expenses, to reduce the misdiagnosis, complications, hospitalization days, and by doing so, we reduce the cases of complications. Let's talk about preterm births and preeclampsia and other maternal and neonatal, by the way, complications, which is so important for the providers, of course, that want to have excellence, clinical
Of
excellence,
course.
and the hospitals that just Scientific American just posted a new paper that is talking about so many hospitals that were closed just in 5 years in the United States. So we have a lot of places that they have no physicians, no OBGYN physicians to treat these women.
And I want to be very clear. The solution that you are bringing to the market is an extremely sophisticated multiple data source machine learning, which actually becomes part of the organism of the entire pregnancy, right?
So yes.
How did I do there? Was that okay? Was it like
Yeah.
20% or 100%?
It was like, let's say 80%.
I'll take 80.
So, actually, yes, we have such talented people in our company.
Can you
So,
speak about those a little bit, about the team that you have? Because I think your team is really, again, one of the points that defines everything that's going to be done in the future.
yeah, sure. So, let's start with my background.
Yeah.
So, I am biomedical engineer.
Badass.
I'm a biomedical engineer, physicist, and data scientist. I work in this field actually 13 years now. So started with cybersecurity, and we didn't mention it, but I came originally from Israel, and Israel is probably the best country for cybersecurity.
Absolutely.
So we know how to profile people in order to prevent incidents to happen. So you can see that I brought the same approach to here. We want to
Beautiful.
profile these women in order to prevent these incidents to happen.
Amazing.
So, and our CDO, Moshe, was leading a lot of groups with DARPA and with the IAF, Israeli Air Force. And we have Alison
You had me
Kumar
at
for
DARPA, by the way.
what?
You had me at DARPA.
Yeah, so yeah,
That's
DARPA, it's
enough.
a distinguished one
Yeah.
and amazing project, very unique one. But Moshe has 20 years experience in this field, many different projects, and so
Badass.
it's perfect combination. And not to mention Yuval that
Hmm.
came to our company from weeks, and not to mention Alison that is veteran from FDA. So actually what I love in our company and in our DNA, that all of us are getting out to from our bed to bring this change to the world. So and and to build this company with people that are where came from different background and various fields, it what makes this so unique. And when we took this idea to think about the medical world as a checkmate field, and we use this method of checkmate. So, actually, by doing so, we believe that we can influence on this medical world, because we predict not just the woman profile but also the physician profile. And by doing this combination, we know what will be the next move, what will be the best next move to do.
I got you. And then, so let's move to next steps. Let's move to, because I think anybody listening to this is like, obviously, Brian is convinced, of course. That's why we put our money into it and we wanted to put in more. Obviously, the product sounds incredibly robust. This has been something that you've been working on for a long time with some of the greatest experts in the field. And the investment. I've been on the calls, so I know it's not an issue. But talk to us about what you're going to be looking to raise in the future, more or less. Talk to us about the growth of the company. We don't have to go into tremendous detail, but I just want people to see where we see this going, what the finish line looks like, how many women around the world can be affected. Because it's not just, even though America's got an extremely challenging healthcare system, it's not just America facing problems here. It's Spain, Europe, the entire world. So show us that vision of where you're going to.
So yes, sure, and now we work also with Europe, with one of the biggest associations and organizations in Europe. So with the biggest hospital in Barcelona, and with all the network in Catalonia, we are talking about
Wow.
around 8 million people that are going to affect by what we are doing. And also the biggest hospital in Berlin, our company funded by Horizon 2020,
Amazing.
for doing this change, for bringing this change to Europe, actually to influence all their people. So very
And
fascinating.
New York as well.
And not to mention, of course, the works that we've done with New York, with the biggest and largest hospital in New York,
Yeah.
and one of the biggest network there, and not to mention Baltimore and all the hospitals around. So yes, that was the reason where
Why
that
you are
was,
you are, yeah.
yeah, why I'm here.
And so
Yeah.
so really, am I right saying that you see this as being a methodology that will be used for every single woman looking to have a child at any stage in the future?
It is going to be everywhere,
Yeah, it
actually.
should be,
So
right?
from now on, yeah.
Because there's no friction points. I don't see any part. Normally, what I look for, I used to always look for, phenomenal disruption. And then I realized disruption is horrible because it's got friction everywhere. What you want is like frictionless innovation, something which is so useful and so great, it goes into the environment and it slips in so beautifully that everybody wants it. And I don't see anyone who wouldn't want desperately what you're bringing.
That is totally correct, because as I mentioned before, we want to reduce these financial complications and clinical complications. And by doing so, by reducing the clinical implications and open this new window to reduce misdiagnosis, complications, readmissions, and all that, we reduce also the financial implications. So totally agree with you about the potential here.
So all you investors out there, if you're wondering if it's a big market, yeah, it's kind of all of the women in the world, and then, it's all of the children in the world too. So it's kind of a big market, okay? So for people who want to connect with you and they see the vision, they get as excited as I am, can you share the website so they can find the website, and also your email address so people are able to contact you? And maybe just a parting thought about why your company and what you're doing is going to be so important for you and what it's going to bring to the planet. So we'll start with the website and the email, and then something inspirational just to finish us with.
Yeah. So I encourage you to partner with us first and to implement our AI platform in your hospital, in your services. As insurers, again, I would love to work together with you to reduce the financial implications that at the end of the day you are paying for, and also to increase your revenues. So would love to see you at our website www.gynisus, which is gynisus.com. My personal email is hilad@gynisus.com, HILA@gynisus.com.
And something inspirational. Come on, take us deep. I want you to take us deep into your soul about what this is going to do for the world. Not the money, because we're all convinced on the money, and not even the impact or the savings, just why this is so huge for you.
So I, again, get out of my bed every day to change women's health, to change birth and pregnancy, childbirth and pregnancy, and to have for all of us and for all the humanity better outcomes, better health. We deserve it, actually. All of us deserve better. So I encourage you to join forces with us in order to bring this change to the world.
And it's beautiful. And for me to be a part of it, just to be able to see that one woman who makes it all the way through, who maybe would not have before because of a predictive potential challenge that she would have had with the birth, that was found out through this platform, that smile is enough, right?
Right.
That's how we finish. That's a wrap.
Yeah. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks for joining us. If you love the podcast, please empower your circle by sharing these stories. The Art of Startup War is brought to you by Expert Dojo. And remember, we invest in startups, $50,000 checks. Make sure you apply on our site if you are one of those great entrepreneurs looking to bring your company to the next level. As far as the Art of Startup War is concerned, we are back every single Tuesday at 10 a.m. So remember, check out the new episodes. If you want to find out what the investors think, check out season 1 or 2. But make sure you join us every single week.